in recent interviews that you got, well, at least you said you got tired of black metal, and you also got tired of the predictable metal scene that is going on right now, actually with prog as well. So, do you see yourself in a couple of years in a totally different genre than this black metal, prog, or metal? Do you see yourself outside of rock, actually?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I don't feel we have anything to do with black metal, and we have actually never played black metal.
Yeah.
Or it's just like we have the connection
with Isa, yeah, right.
Yeah, but we don't have any connection to that scene except for him, of course.
Yeah.
So it's so that's why that link has been used, even though we've never really had anything to do with it. So of course we see some black metal shirts on our shows, and that's just cool because the more people you can appeal to in a way from different genres, the better. And I think it's about time to kind of erase the boundaries between those genres and everything. It's just like it's just different moods. That's all, and some genres they cling themselves to like one specific mood the whole time, and for me that becomes way too one-dimensional in the long run. It doesn't mean that I never appreciate it. It just means that I don't appreciate it all the time. So yeah, that's just like I feel we don't connect that much with a lot of the metal bands because a lot of the metal bands are very conform to those genres and
but even prog these days, if you listen to new prog bands, it's like as you say, it's like a template that they use. Yeah.
It's a lot of it. There's a lot of it, and I don't have any big love for prog either. It doesn't mean that I don't like prog. Never. It just means that for me, as a whole genre, it's also very predictable and one-dimensional. It's all about musicianship rather than about emotions, and it's more like, whoa, that was impressive, at the same way as like a good football player or whatever, something like that. It's not what we're doing. I mean, sometimes we spice things up a little bit here and there with some technical stuff, of course, but it's never been about the technical stuff for us, even in the old days when we were kind of a bit more all over the place.
Right, exactly. So, well, you mentioned before Isa from Emperor. So, when you first started collaborating with him and playing with him, did you feel like he was giving a push to your career in Leprous, or at the end it was the other way? Because most of people who listen to Leprous maybe didn't know what Emperor is.
I know. I think in general he was very important for us in the early days. Very important. He helped us into in a way, he was our first meeting with the professional music world, to say it like that.
Yeah.
So even though we were maybe decent musicians back then, and even though maybe would have gotten where we are anyway, it was definitely a good help and a nice, really good shortcut to get to some big stages at pretty early. And sometimes, of course, we get that. I still see the backing band of Ishan, and it's been such a long time ago that it doesn't I don't understand why people are still making that reference, but it's probably because of where they are musically, and if they're coming from an extreme metal or background, and that's how they discovered Leprous, then of course that's of big importance to them. But if you're coming more from alternative rock or more prog rock world, then you probably don't even know what Emperor is, as you mentioned before. So it depends. For us, it's not really that important who our listeners are. We just do our music, and people can like it and they can dislike it, and it's beyond our control anyway.
All right. So let's talk a bit about the new album that you're recording now. So I think that you mentioned that in previous Leprous albums, The Voice was one of the last things that you add on to the music. You were doing the music itself and then The Voice. but I think in Malina, or maybe in the last songs that you recorded, you were actually building the music around the voice. I don't know if this is true. So how is it working right now that you are recording the album?
I didn't build a lot around the voice on Malina, but I've done it a lot on these new songs, on some of the songs.
Yeah.
Some of the songs. And some songs are... the thing is, you never know which is which, because some songs are very vocal driven, but maybe the vocals weren't added until like a really late stage, just like even the same week as I was recording them. But still, it sounds like a very vocal driven song, and it was all the way supposed to be a vocal driven song, but I just never got satisfied with the vocal lines until really late in the stage. But other songs was just right away, here's the vocal lines and that's it, and that's one of the main things in the song. And so it really depends. I've become way more laid back with the way I'm writing music through the years, and just like I don't try that hard anymore to do this or that, and just whatever comes, and I'm confident enough that I know right away when we have enough songs to make a good album in a way. And again, can I repeat?
Yeah, Oysen has left the band. He's been with you for so many years, and now that you are doing a new album and some time has passed since he left the band, do you feel more like you are another entity without him, or is it just the same?
Oystein was never a big part of the songwriting anyway, actually, so he didn't write much, and like on Congregation and Malina, he wrote absolutely nothing, and just one riff maybe on Cole, and then a couple of riffs on my letter. So it was never a big creative contributor to the band. He was more like a really good friend, a good guitar player, but he was just mostly more of a player than a composer, to say it like that.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
The songwriting didn't change too much. I've been writing.
Okay. So in some interview, you mentioned that this new album is going to be in some sort of way controversial. So, for example, Malina itself was already controversial for some people who were expecting because they were expecting maybe a more obscure metal album or growls on the songs. So, are you bothered when people say, "Oh, you guys need to go back to obscure metal," or "You guys need to go back to growls"?
No, because it's just a part of being a band, and no matter what you do, some people always prefer you to do something else, and sometimes I like one of the really golden prayers, for example, the single song that was just kind of an extra song that we recorded together with Malina. Then people were suddenly, "Oh, but this just sounds like the same old Leprous, there's nothing new." So no matter if we do something new or if we do something, not do something new, and there will always be someone who's not happy with the direction you're making, but it's been clear from the beginning through the Leprous history that every new album from us is going to be different than the previous one. So in a way, maybe a lot of people would have hoped us to take maybe a darker direction, or maybe a heavy direction, and some people would maybe like a more mellow direction, like a really quiet album, and some people would like this, and it's just like, in the end, it doesn't matter, because we have to do something that really feels true to us, and then people will either like it or dislike it, and will probably be a big combination, I'm sure, like it's been with every new album. And usually it also happens that through time people kind of appreciate the latest album a bit more than they did in the beginning, some people. So it's like when we released Cole, for example, that was a very controversial album that was released, because it was way more minimalistic, and it was a completely new approach to songwriting than, for example, Bilateral. So people were, "Oh, what the fuck is this?" But now a lot of people have that as favorite album, and the same with congregation came, it was less controversial, I would say, probably, because it was still kind of a continuation of Cole, just a bit more technical.
Yeah.
But then people were like, oh, yeah, but Cole was doing it, and they always compare to what they know and what they like, and I think it's fine. It doesn't bother me too much. Just make peace with it. Opinions are just opinions; they're not facts.
Right. So one of the things that you mentioned about Molina is that it was a melancholic album because it was also a very personal album to you regarding the story of the songs. So is it the same with this new album that you're recording right now, or is it not that personal as Molina?
It's way more personal, and it's the only album where I quite openly speak about my own struggles in a kind of a very direct and open way.
Yeah.
Before I always wrapped it into metaphors and just on this new album, but it takes a lot more of the emotional spectrum. We have some really melancholic tracks, but we have some more uplifting ones as well. It's supposed to kind of take more of the emotional register, and it's a more diverse album than Molina, for sure. It's more diverse, but it's, I mean, we have 13 songs that we're recording,
right?
Which are maybe 9 or 8, between 8 and 10 of the maximum will make it to the album, and the rest will be kind of
B-sides, maybe, yeah.
Or bonus or whatever. So we have everything from the most poppy, catchy, super uplifting stuff that we've ever written, that I'm 100% sure that a lot of our fans will hate. 100% sure of it. And then we will have some super, really long, very technical but also weird tracks that are as far from pop as you can get in a way. So it's a more diverse album in that sense. But the average of the album is that it's way more reserved than Molina in the songwriting. There's not a lot of flashy stuff. There's not a lot of super technical stuff.
Yeah.
So it's quite reserved. So we want to build it more like a movie in a way, to kind of take our time to reach the climax, and to have a whole emotional spectrum, not only one emotional spectrum,
All right. So are you having a cello on this new album? Because on the previous tours last year, I think you were having someone playing the cello with you.
Yeah, it's part of this album.
Great. So I remember a couple of months ago, I saw you guys in Holland in Prognosis Festival, and you were doing the congregation. It's in Saturday, right? So I was a bit surprised when I heard that you were doing the album and not Molina, which is the latest, right? So I was wondering, do you feel in some sort of way that the congregation is a much more loved album than Molina for Leprous fans?
Definitely not. It's just it's such a huge difference between what people say online and between what they actually listen to, because a lot of people will just listen, and they don't comment on the internet, and they're not on YouTube comment on stuff, because Molina has by far the most sales and streams, and it's the biggest, and we know that when we play those songs, they get immediate feedback, and that's just how it is. But when you're doing an album in its entirety, the really weird to do the latest ones because that's basically almost what we've been doing these years anyway. We played a lot of Malina material, so I think the whole point was that they wanted to book a different show. That being said, I think the Congregation album made a pretty terrible set list because all of the hits are in the first part of the album. Yeah, so it was just like, yeah, the first part, and then there's there's a lot of multiples now in the end of when we're trying to keep up the intensity, and they're just like, we're already done with all the kind of most light friendly songs. Not all songs that are good on album, they're not necessarily good live, you know.
Yeah.
So it was, to my surprise, that was a very weird set list, and I had the same thing when I saw Massive Attack recently. They played
the Mississippi.
Yeah. And I thought, fuck yeah, they're playing it, and that's my favorite album. And I realized after only like 4 songs that I really like from the album, then I was just mixing all of the other songs that I like from other albums. Let's play this one and that one. And I was just like, and then I realized the album was not usually a great